well as collectively. Lord, we thank you for what you've already done. Thank you for what you're doing right now. Thank you for what you're about to do. And then, dear Heavenly Father, we pray now that after everything has been said and done, that we'll be so careful and so kind to give you all the praise and all the glory. For it is in the mighty name of Jesus we do pray. Amen.
Amen. Amen.
Thank you. Mr. Clerk, you got a roll call, please.
Councilmember Curry here. Councilmember Thomas here. Councilmember Ellis here. Councilmember Williams here. Mayor Williams
here. At this time, we'll turn it over to our city attorney to discuss the ordinance number 367 and any type of road on property.
All right, Sergeant Lockhart, there are 5 different properties on handle in order that are on the agenda. You got something to go?
Yes, sir.
David and Lane Boyd, address 247th Street Southwest, I believe. You received a signature card back on that letter you sent out, did you not?
Yes, sir.
Sergeant Lockhart provided a copy of this letter and the return receipt in the packet. So I'm not going to go through the full litany just to make sure the card is in there. Did you receive any response from the board?
No, sir.
Have you re-inspected the property at any point since you sent the letter?
I re-inspected it shortly before we arrived here.
All right. Then did you find any change in the premises?
No, sir.
And what did you find when you got there this time?
Overgrown property. That's about it. On the inches.
Does anybody in the council have any questions about this particular property? All right, we'll move on to the next one, which is Bobby King, which you also got a signature card back on that one as well, did you not?
Yes, sir.
I received a letter from Mr. Robert King. Did you receive your response from Mr. King?
Yes, sir.
Have they done anything to alleviate the nuisance?
No, sir.
His letter said that they had done some work. Did they do everything they needed to do?
That's the
property.
That's the property I just spoke to Mr. Green about, and he said he did supervise him come in and do some type of work to that property.
Okay. Would it be better to ask Mr. Green what's happened?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Bobby King owns the old Avondale Mill property over here. They got in contact with you about doing some work, cleaning some of that up. What did they do?
They did. On August the 24th, in the absence of Sergeant Lockhart, I was advised to meet with Mr. King, Mr. Bonnie King, Mr. Walker. At that time, they were in the process of trying to remove some of the trees off the property. That property has a lot of debris on it, which would be just impossible for them to be removed, at that length of time. So they did make some effort in trying to move some of the trees, which have a combination of trees and debris. That won't be
And the debris had been there for quite some time.
a number of years.
But as far as he has cleaned up the fence and made it look somewhat better.
Not the fence, they kind of started around the building, the structure itself, and tried to kind of work their way out. Let's understand there was a very, very overgrown area, and it would take, some large equipment also to clean the property up totally. But they did make an effort and said they would be making more effort. So this property would take some time.
We're going to continue to make some efforts.
Yes, sir.
Okay. The council have any questions for Sergeant Lockhart, Mr. Green?
I got a question. Mr. Green, did you give them a time period to get this thing cleaned up?
No, we didn't get into that part of the conversation. I was just kind of glad to see them making an effort, but it would, with these mills, it's such amount of debris, bricks and pits, and it would just be impossible for them to clean that thing up in 6 months. So I think with this property owner, we probably just have to stay with continual conversation with them until they make some type of effort or they move into somebody else's hands to make sure it's a lot of debris. A lot.
And this the one going for the old
It's based on Avondale.
Mill. They've had years. I mean, that thing been a problem for years. it off. I think something needs to be done about it. We gonna make everybody else clean up their property and stuff.
You know, our conversation we did, Mark, that they would make much effort that they could. And, you know, I would say it might take a year to clean that property out. Much debris, and the number of bricks that's over there, and then there's some of the old mill structures still there, along with some other personal property, I might say there. But they were making an effort.
Attorney, I have a question. For future references, couldn't you just, we had discussed it a while back, identifying the districts for these addresses, as y'all present them, if you could, you know, just actually add that so everybody would know exactly what areas you're definitely talking about.
That particular one is where we at. It's in the green one. Who's D? That's you.
Yeah, that's why I say, I've got a problem for a long time, and I want my district cleaned up.
You know, at this point, we're still fact finding. The vote on the nuisance resolution will come a little bit later, so at this point, if, you know, if there are additional questions, in my opinion, now it's time for that. I think I would also like to submit, did anybody else get a copy of this letter that Mr. Roger King sent? It's in my stack. Let me go ahead and present that as well. Did you get it, Lewis? Yeah, I think it's important that they see it, like George said.
Could we move on to Mr. McCants and then
Yes.
come back to that one?
Yes.
To conclude?
Yes. Come on, here you go. I found it. That's a letter that they actually sent us. Promising to continue working. What do you read? I just wanted to give you a chance to look at that, and if there are any additional follow-up questions from Mr. Green or Mr. Lockhart, Officer Lockhart, Sergeant Lockhart.
Whichever one works for you.
All right, well, we'll move on to Eric McCants. You received a signature card back on that one.
Yes, sir.
And have you visited that property since, or heard from Mr. McCants? I'm sorry.
Yes, sir.
Has Mr. McCants done anything to address it?
Overgrown property, dilapidated house.
But the only notice you sent him was.
Was the crash, yes, sir.
Now,
I'm still working out some kinks for the dilapidated house. Me and Mr. Green gonna get together and we're gonna see how we're gonna get that together.
What house located in?
2nd Avenue Southwest, 5th Circle. You know, the Harrington lives on 2nd Avenue.
Oh, okay.
Right.
Do we have pictures? We don't have pictures.
Yes, ma'am. I got a few pictures. I don't have pictures of Mr. King because I couldn't get through the gate. This is going to be the one I'm discussing, the next two I'm about to discuss. The one that have FLO drive two are going to be the next two we're about to discuss.
Got a little short part on that.
Yes.
And the next two are Eric Kent, Andy Burkhart, Second Avenue Southwest.
The next two, these two are going to be the two that we're going to discuss on Second Avenue Southwest.
Okay. You had discussion with Mr. McCants?
I have not.
Okay, we've not heard from Mr. McCants.
No, sir.
And have you re-inspected that property since you took those pictures?
Yes, sir.
Has there been any change?
No, sir.
Since we published the picture to the other Second Avenue Southwest property, before we skip down to it, Matthew Pike, you received a signed card back from him.
Yes, sir.
Have you heard from Mr. Pike?
No, sir.
Have you re-inspected that property since the pictures you had published?
Yes, sir.
And was there any change to the property?
No, sir.
That it remains overgrown, weeds and grass?
Yes, sir.
All right. Does the council have any questions for Sergeant Lockhart concerning the Southwest, Second Avenue Southwest property?
Do you have any pictures with it?
The,
Or one of these?
yes, sir. This is mechanics. This is pipe.
Okay.
Any other questions? All right, well, we will move on to Ms. Parkman. Did you get a card back from her? I didn't see one.
I actually got the letter back from them.
Okay.
And the letter did not send.
You sent that letter to the address that was shown on the tax.
Yes, sir. It was the address in Ohio.
And did you post the property?
I did.
Did you post it in time, prior to the time allowed by under the ordinance?
Yes, sir.
And I assume you haven't heard from anyone concerning that property?
No, sir. I can say the complainant is behind me. She has expressed her concern for several months.
Okay.
When I went out there to check on it today, she would probably tell you what's the problem, because only thing I can see is trees and overgrown. I don't know how they can get that clean. But her concern was rats and other stuff getting under her house, making noise. She can't sleep, and it's hard for her to sleep. And around
This
it,
is the first time we've had a problem with this property. Councilman, Thomas, I think you may remember, we had a problem with this property before.
Sure did. It's not the first time.
it was 3 years of what she expressed to me. And she was very emotional about it. She have expressed herself. It only comes around the time it starts getting hot. When it starts getting hot, she starts getting stuff running on her trailer. And she can't sleep, and it's been bothering her for 3 years.
Any questions from Sergeant Lockhart on this one?
No, that's your last one. You got another one?
I did send a property to Mr. David Ennis. He came back signed, and that was the only one that got taken care of. That's why I wasn't closer to the agenda.
What property is that?
Mr. David Ennis, it was on, behind the school, behind the high school, that dead end road behind the high school. It'll be First Avenue Northeast. Okay, if you're coming up by the high school, you come past the 2 gates, you make a left onto 3rd Street. First turn to the right, it'll lead you by that church. That road dead end. The third property to the left before the dead end is gonna be Mr. David Ennis' property. Had overgrown grass, and that was the only one that got cleaned off.
Attorney Tucker, could we let Ms. Whitlow come to the podium and speak
Yeah.
about the property next door?
I was gonna give her an opportunity after I got through.
Thank you.
I got a question for Sergeant Lockhart.
Yes, sir.
When you finish,
Yes, sir.
okay. That house I've been telling you about, I know you go to work every day at JP Power School. You gotta see it. That's
Miss Mayor her property. I sent her a letter. She got it cleaned the time that she told me to get it cleaned. She got it cleaned maybe a week after that.
She
I
got
haven't
clean.
seen it cleaned since then.
She can't tear it down because it got asbestos in it.
Yeah, talking about that grass though, I mean, she ain't got that clean, it ain't been clean. I mean, Paul, you probably pass by that every day, right beside Solid Zachary House.
No, that's not Mary, that's Miss Winston's.
Yeah, I'm talking about the green by
Yeah,
Solid.
that's Miss Winston, that's not Mary Hurd.
Yeah, but that's what he's saying, but,
Which house was you referring to?
the greenhouse, when you turn it to go to Deputy Power School, on the corner there, on MLK Drive.
I have to look into it.
Yeah, he passed by there.
Probably where the Kurt juice is at.
There you go, yeah, cause, the guy, the Zachary guy, he called me for 2 years now. And I think me and Lewis went down and looked at it once before, Lewis, the same house me and we looked at once before, we looked at it, yeah.
When I looked into that property, I don't think there was much information on the tax website. But on the tax website where I go in and see what property it is, let me check it out. And I will get back. I got your cell phone number, so I get back.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, sir.
That's all I got to wait.
So then, Charlie Lockhart.
I would suggest go into the tax office and pull the hard copy, because sometimes they don't update that information on the website as often as we would like.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Thank you.
Ms. Whitlow, if you would take a couple of minutes and just tell the council what you observed on the lot next door, and briefly tell them the problems.
I've been asking for several years. The property is just overgrown, and the coyotes is so bad. We can't walk outside, walk over there at night. They're sitting out in the backyard. These big field rats, they're coming out. Something has dug, like on the side, that side of my trailer has dug a spot, and they're getting up under there. And I don't know what they're tearing up under there, but sometime at night, I can't sleep at all for whatever it is that keeps going up under there. But if it was clean now, we could see better, we could know what's coming out. You just walk out there and those coyotes just run out at you, you know. And a lot of times we go to the back door to come in late at night. So it's something I've been asking for years and it never got done, but it's really bad.
That's the property, Mr. Ruth's cousin,
Yeah.
something like that.
She's an elderly lady, but she's related to Mr. Reese.
What's your address?
726 MLK Drive.
It's right next door to you.
Before you get her coming from there, I have pictures on my cell phone of this property.
And again, attorney, if you don't mind, you sort of put the districts as the properties represented to make it simplified.
I will get with Sergeant Lockhart and try to get that incorporated in the
I'll take a picture of the map and I have it for y'all next time.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank y'all.
Thanks, sir.
If no one has any more questions, I think we probably go ahead and close the public hearing portion, and then we can address the resolutions when we get to that part of the.
Do we have a motion to adjourn the public hearing? A motion and second, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Public hearing is now adjourned. We'll now call to order the regular council meeting for the city of LaFayette for September 10th. First thing on the agenda would be to approve the reading of the minutes from the August 27th meeting.
I make a motion that we approve the minutes from the August 27th meeting, 2018.
Second.
Have a motion and second to approve the reading of the minutes, August 27th. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Thank you for that. We are going to have a discussion on the Handy Cemetery. We'll ask Ms. Kathy Handy to come up at this time and just kind of give us an update on what might be going on up there.
Okay, I'm not actually going to talk about the Handy Cemetery, just only at the end of this discussion. I was speaking with Councilwoman Williams the other day about another project I'm going to bring to LaFayette. And then at the end, it's tied in with the cemetery, but the rest of the cemetery stuff will come.
Okay.
Okay, and then in 2 weeks, I'll be going back to New York, so you read the a sigh of relief.
No problem.
Okay, so a couple, thank you. A couple weeks ago, my husband and I and my daughter, a friend of hers, went to visit the new Equal Justice Initiative, the Monument and Legacy Museum in Montgomery, Alabama. And the first part of it, the Legacy Museum, you know, is built in an old warehouse where slaves had been brought, and there are a lot of little reminders of a very sad chapter in our history. And then after you visit the museum, you go a couple blocks over to the memorial site where there are pillars. It's a 6-acre site where pillars are hanging, steel pillars, engraved with the names of people who have been identified as victims of lynchings from several states. And as I was walking through, I found one for Chambers County, and it's divided up by county. So I started out with the intention of bringing this to the county commissioners for discussion, but they said, no, go to the city of LaFayette. So I didn't know where the two gentlemen were from who were listed on the steel pillar for Chambers County. But then as I did a little more investigating, with the Tuskegee has archived information about lynchings up till 1920, and it turned out that 2 people were from LaFayette, and I guess that's how our neck of the woods got labeled as hanging woods. So reassuring. And then there's still one other person. So it seems like there's enough impact on the city of LaFayette, so that I'm bringing this to your attention. What they're planning to, what they did was they built the monument with one set of these steel pillars, and then they made an identical set of pillars, which they have out on the field around the monument. And the intention is for the communities to claim their pillar and then provide a suitable place for to bring it back to their community for display and reflection, and for basically a teachable moment. So I have information packets that I could give to you, and I spoke at length with Ms. Williams the other day, and then I also spoke with Mr. Davidson, as I wanted to correct the agenda, but it was, you know, when I clarified it, yeah. So at the end, to find a suitable place for this steel pillar to be placed, I thought that after we went through the whole rest of the process, we could ask the Cemetery Committee if the Chambers County pillar could be placed within the cemetery as kind of a final resting place for the 3 people. So what I have is all this town. I gave a few of Ms. Williams already. This.
What would be the next step, just for clarification, to claim the pillar?
Yeah, it's really quite a lengthy process, and it's going to happen over time.
Okay.
And I did give Ms. Williams a copy of this book, but I'll give you one also if you want to share it with the rest of the committee.
I knew it was a historical nature.
Yeah.
I'll be working on it. I'm going to be asking certain people to help me work on it.
Yeah, it's a big process. So, and they're not releasing any of these pillars until 2019. So there is some time to work on all these other parts.
So at this time, I would like Mayor Williams to entertain a motion for the city of LaFayette to proceed with the procedures for dealing with this information and getting it, hopefully getting it to Handy Cemetery.
Why don't we just put in the form of a motion, since Councilmember Williams has some of the information right here, that we just make a motion to allow her to move forward with this process that we just heard and keep us updated as we go along through the process. Somebody put that?
She'd have to amend.
Okay.
I would draw my motion. Okay. Okay.
So I think what would be appropriate is to make a motion to allow her to move forward with this process and keep the council updated as needed, step-by-step process. So I'm going to make that a motion.
I withdrew. I've already withdrew.
Okay, so.
You got to make a motion.
Okay, I made the motion.
Okay, now we have a motion made. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Okay, we'll move forward with that. Thank you for that information.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for coming. We'll let you go back up north and
Yeah, there's plenty of work for me to do when I get home.
thank you.
Thank you for entertaining us.
We now have with us David Phillips. If you'll come up to the podium, you wanted to discuss the property at 202 Alabama Avenue East.
Correct. That's a parcel I bought back in, I think, '07. I bought it, is everybody familiar with the property?
Right across from Jeff John?
Yeah, it's Ruby Ramage's old house on the corner.
Is that the one with the tree fell?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. So, there's a fairly lengthy history leading us up to where we are today that I thought the council should at least be aware of. It wasn't so much a condition of dilapidation as sort of just one calamity after another that just kind of compounded over the years. To begin with, when I purchased the home, it was already sort of in a state of a little bit of neglect because Ms. Ramage hadn't really kept it up for a lot of years. And are you familiar with Ramsey and Son Home Improvement?
Yes.
I paid Mr. Ramsey in excess of $10,000 to put a new custom roof on that house. If you look at that house now, you'll see that there's not a single seam anywhere from top to bottom on any of those panels. Every one of them is custom cut, custom made on site, top to bottom. So there's, like I said, there's over $10,000 in that roof on that house. And I was working toward fixing that house up. I was working special projects for Auburn at the time, and I was using that as my office and then staying there like 4 days a week. After the roof situation didn't get done, he spent all the money before we completed the contract. And he had done a tear-off on the porch. So he'd taken the roof off the wraparound porch and didn't put anything back in his place. And basically said he couldn't finish the job because he had spent all the money already. So at that time, I had an ironclad contract that said there was a drop-dead date, and I was charging him $125 a day for every day until the project was completed past that due date. It wasn't my first rodeo. I'd been with, general contractors before. I knew to have some protections in place. So when the amount of the penalty exceeded the cost of the roof itself, I decided it was time to litigate. I called pretty much every attorney in town, and they all refused to take the case. I had never run into that before, where somebody refused to sue somebody. I thought that was kind of what lawyers like to do. But they informed me at the time that he already had so many judgments against him that I was so far down the line that if they ever got a nickel out of him, I'd never see it. Which is information I really would have liked to have beforehand. And I'm probably sure he's still practicing and taking people's money here in town today. After that happened, basically it was tongue and groove on the inside of the wraparound porch. And with it raining on the inside of that, warped it all, started to come down. So I tore the porch off the house to redo it. I figured I'd just start from scratch versus trying to put it back together. So that's why the porch is not attached to the house. It was as a result of the roofer who tore the roof off of it. After that, the house got broken into. I kept business files in there with client information, not to mention my own personal stuff. They were in there for several hours, just roaming around, doing whatever they were doing. When the police showed up, they basically explained to me that they thought it was just kids. And I was like, I don't really care. They broke into my house and stole a bunch of stuff. So in the back, I had a utility room with a washing machine and dryer. So as I said, I was staying there part-time. There's brand new utility appliances in there. And when they had tried to move the washing machine, they hit the flue, dumped dust all over the top of it, put a big handprint on the top. So I said, great, we got these guys. So I asked the patrol officers who showed up to call a detective. The detective showed up about an hour later and basically said that they would take the prints off the washer, they wouldn't do anything with it. They said if he got arrested for something else, they would compare the prints to these prints and then charge him with my crime. And I was like, I didn't really realize that's how that worked, but so.
When did this happen?
That was probably, I'm going to say 2010 probably. Obviously, at that point, I didn't feel secure keeping my business information and stuff in there. I mean, you can't, if you can't lock the door and walk away from it, if I got to sit there and watch it the whole time, that sort of becomes problematic. At that time, I decided I was taking care of my elderly mom who had just had a quadruple bypass. She lived up in Sylacauga by herself, so I was devoting a lot more time to that at the moment. So what I did was I had a gentleman come out in a bucket truck and cut a perimeter completely around the edge of the house with probably a 20-foot space between the trees that used to ring the house, so nothing would fall and penetrate my new $10,000 roof. I shut the utilities off and had to pull the meter, so there was no chance of an electrical fire or anything like that. I went and had custom-made wrought iron grates done specifically to cover the windows. If you drive by the house the next time, you'll see the black grates on the windows. I had those made and put on for the ones that didn't have it. So I secured it the best I could. And after that was when the tree that's on the city right-of-way snapped off at the ground, fell 80 feet back into the house. It would have fallen in any other direction, it would have hit nothing. Unfortunately, it hit 10 feet right to the side of the front door and basically penetrated the roof, the brand new roof over the living room area. I've had several conversations with the city about that, about whose tree it is and whose tree it isn't, and what's, acts of God and what's liability, and we kind of danced around the maypole for a while on that. And I tried to work with the city. I've had conversation with Mr. Green several times about what could be done. When the tree was still laying over inside the house, he expressed to me that the city told him that he wasn't allowed to help me get it out of the house. So at my own expense, I brought in a tree crew and they cut up this is a 100-year-old tree, so it's roughly about 5 feet around. We cut the tree up the best we could and hauled it to the curb. The only part we couldn't get, because we didn't have a bucket truck, was the actual part that penetrated the roof up on the side. At no point did the city contact me when they came out and removed that part of the tree finally. When they did it, when the tree fell, it was the branches part, the highest part of the tree that fell into the roof. So there was a hole in the roof where the branches had gone through, but it was a hole in the roof. When they removed that section of the tree, they tore out the entire corner of the house, basically like a broad point on an arrow. It goes in one way, but when you pull it out, it does a lot of damage on the way out. So that whole right-hand corner of the house, back to the front door, the whole front of the house basically was ripped out when they pulled that section of tree out. Never notified me they were coming. Everybody here's got my phone number, my mailing address, everything. They've had it for years. So they created, at that point, more damage than what the tree did. Since that point, I've kind of just resigned myself to kind of take my losses and move on best I can. I've had 3 separate offers on that house to buy from Miss Ramage's granddaughter, and she's reneged on every one. She kept telling me she's gonna come with the check on Monday, and then something happened, and blah, blah, blah. So this whole thing's been stretched out over the course of months, if not almost a year now. So I've had quite a history with this house, none of it good. And basically, I'm trying my best to accommodate. I understand where you guys are coming from. My best intentions when I bought that place was to turn it into the nicest house in LaFayette. And I've met nothing but natural and man-made resistance from almost the time I bought it, which is unfortunate. Certainly not the way I wanted it to go. At this point, I'm inclined to just put it up for public sale. I'm going to put a sign in the yard and see what I can do if anybody wants to come and try to fix it as a fixer-upper. If that doesn't work, I'd kind of like to implore the city to maybe give me a hand getting it down. I mean, you know, you guys did a pretty good job on the one corner, maybe you could help me tear down the rest of it. You know, that's kind of where I'm at. If I can't sell it for somebody who's willing to put in the effort to kind of put it back together, then there's really nothing more I can do with it. I'm close to $50,000 into that house right now. So I'm looking at taking $20,000, $30,000 hit at least. You know, even if I just wind up with a lot. And I think the gentleman who lives next door to me is probably going to want to buy that if I can get the house out of the way. So I don't know if you guys have any mechanisms in place. I'm an urban planning consultant. I work with cities, counties all over the country all the time. I'm not used to being on this side of the podium, so this is kind of a new experience for me. But there are measures in place a lot of other cities use, like they can do, you know, fire department exercises, things of that nature, where you can take down dilapidated properties and kind of kill two birds with one stone. It works out for everybody. So I don't know what you guys have considered moving forward in terms of remedy, but I'm more than willing to work with the city. I just want to let you know that that house is not dilapidated. It's just sort of a whole calamity of stuff happened. And it wasn't like intentional, and it wasn't neglect. Now I still live in Sylacauga, so I'm an hour and 40 minutes away every time I have to come try to cut grass. And unfortunately, transmission's out in my truck right now, or I would have cut it this week. But truth be told, I kind of let the grass grow up as a deterrent. Every time I cut the grass, I wound up with another broken window, another kid climbing through the door, whatever. You know, the grass acts like sort of a natural fence, as it were. I know that's not good for the city, not good for the neighborhood, but in practicality, it's better if it's growing up than when it's not, to be honest. At least, you know, for keeping people out of it. I'll do my part as far as keeping up the exterior, and like I said, I'm going to put a sign in front of it and see if anybody wants it. But at some point, if that doesn't happen, I'm basically here to tell you that I'm willing to work with the city. If you guys can help me, maybe we can find some resolution and figure out how to get it down and, you know, take care of it not being a problem for anybody anymore. That's what I had. Questions?
When are you gonna put that sign in the yard for sale?
As soon as I get my truck running, because I'm going to put on like a 4x8. I'm going to, not just like, you know, some little thing. I'm going to make sure people know it's for sale.
And I have seen where fire departments burn properties and stuff like that for training,
Right.
for the fire department, or, you know, training.
And that's, you know, that's not my first preference, because there's, you know, just in terms of architectural salvage, there's a bunch of stuff I'd like to get out of that house. But, you know, there's hand-honed beams underneath it. Can't get to the beams with the house still standing, and if you burn it down, it'll lose all that.
Has it been tested to see if there's no asbestos, nothing like that?
No, that house was built in 1903, so you're about 70, 80 years off of asbestos.
But technically, it would still have to be tested, right, Superintendent?
That's correct, to be burned, it has to test it.
Yeah, that's fine.
Well, maybe donate that land, you know, you don't sell it, maybe donate it to the city, we could probably do something with it.
City can buy it from me if they like. I'm not opposed to that. I'll look at your offer.
I think where we are, everyone's heard the history.
I thought it was important for you guys to at least
But
know that.
the reality is you have to let us know your intentions. there's gonna be a public auction, if that's your intent, and that's what the signs are and everything like that. And then that's either going to determine someone purchasing it or not, and then from that point, you'd have to move on to the next thing.
Right,
So
exactly.
sounds like the step that you're about to take is some type of auction.
Not auction, I'm just gonna put a for sale sign in front of it. Yeah, so
For sale.
put it on the
I
market.
thought you said public auction
No,
of some type.
no, I'm gonna just put it up for sale.
Okay?
You know, a general contractor can do the labor themselves, that'd be worthwhile for them, because the damage is actually contained to just that one room on the corner, which is a good thing. But it just, whoever wants to bite off that piece of, you know, I mean, they're getting a lot of house for not a lot of money, if they're willing to do the work. Maybe I can find somebody, who knows, I don't know at this point. Like I said, I thought I had it sold 3 different times already, and I was ready to move on, which is, you know, why I didn't really do anything more in terms of approaching you guys yet.
Thank you.
Sure, thank you, thanks for your time.
Mayor, I have a quick question.
Yeah.
Who did you speak with from the city that said that they took the tree off the house?
I don't know who took the tree off the house, because like I said, remember last time I talked to you, the city attorney told you you couldn't come anywhere near it, right?
I guess I'm just trying to figure out.
Yeah, I don't know.
The city took it.
I don't know, I have no idea.
I don't have any recollection of the city taking it either.
Well, somebody grabbed it out of there, I don't know who it was, but nobody notified me when they did it. So I came down the next time to cut grass, and I was like, okay, that hole got a lot bigger. I mean, that's what I found out.
The city.
Yeah, I couldn't imagine just a random passerby going in.
I'm just trying to clarify.
Yeah.
Because when you say the city did it, but you didn't talk to anyone, then
The city did not
clarify
notify me.
Because we're leaving tonight kind of like the city did it, the city did more damage, but I don't know anyone from the city in the department. Superintendent Green doesn't. I think Councilmember Mangum was on the council at the time. Well, Mr. Mangum, I just don't think anyone here.
I just couldn't possibly imagine a walker by saying, gee, I really need that tree 20 feet up off the ground.
Well, DH would. I mean,
The end result's the same. I'm not even concerned about placing liability. We're past that point with
yeah,
this
and I
house.
understand that. I just wanted that
Sure.
clarified because, you know, everyone leaves tonight, knows the city tore the man's house.
Right.
They was taking the tree off, and no one really knows that. But I haven't talked to anyone with the city that said they took the tree because they would came to me. Everyone here knows the very first thing I say, oh, private property, no way.
Well, we've gone round and round on the tree for a while, and and you know, the tree basically, the tree was in the right of way. It's on the easement. So you know, I brought in a letter from the agriculture department in Auburn saying that basically anybody who was looking at that tree should have known that it was dangerous and taken it down. The city had taken 2 trees down without notification to me before this tree fell, and they took down the rest after without notification to me.
But you're still saying the city did it. How do you know the city took that? You said the third?
No, I'm talking, my house used to be ringed with 80-foot tall trees. There's none there now.
But you still don't know that the city did it.
Mr. Green, who cut down all the trees around my house?
Yes, please, Mr. Green.
At the time, pretty much, at the time, the tree fell on Mr. Phillips' house, it was due from a storm that came.
Right.
I think some on council still remember that. And after that, we did some inspection on any of the rest of the trees that was there. Some had some parasites in them. And once we found out that they got some parasites or some deterioration, we go ahead and take them down. We've been advised to take them down, you know, because we know that it could be a problem.
But those trees don't see the right of way, not the grass property.
Right. Trees,
All of them.
all the trees was on the right of way. And just to clarify the point that Mr. Phillips was talking about, at the time that the tree fell, we was advised only cut it back to the right of way and leave the rest.
So we don't have to notify him if it's on the right of way?
Right, we removed the part from the right of way back to the street,
Right.
and we left it there. And I think at a further time, he was.
It's just the questioning point at the time was, it's the city's tree when they cut it down and don't notify me. It's my tree when it falls on my house.
Thank you for that.
Thank you.
If I would, real quick, just to get you guys kind of visually up to speed here, if you don't mind. Clearly see that's on the right way between the sidewalk and the house.
Yeah, it's right, that's me.
Right? Okay? And that's what the base of the tree was. So it wasn't storm damage, it was just the wind blew over a rotten tree.
Thank you.
Sure.
All right. Excuse me, now we move on to the department head, monthly reports. Again, does anyone have a question? Nobody has a question for the department head.
I do.
That's what I said. Anyone have a question?
I do, I have several. For Ms. Glee and yourself, Mayor, and probably our clerk and our attorney. If you come first. First of all, I would like to ask my fellow council members if they are aware of a fine that the wastewater plant is receiving.
Fine.
Yeah. Well, we have received one, and we haven't been transparent here at City Hall with letting everybody know about it. So I would like for you to tell us what the status is of the proposed consent order and the $20,975 fine for making.
$20,900.
$20,975. And why we weren't?
The mayor was included. He went to ADM with us to our meeting. It's not like I was leaving it out. I went to who I felt like I had to go to, which was the mayor. We went to a meeting with ADM. It's things that happened before I took over, it's some of it. And
Not all of it.
no, not all of it, but the majority of the money is some overflows that took place that they said was not reported, which I had to get that information from Katie and Jeff because I had no idea, and we could not find the forms that they filled out.
What are the 30 violations?
How many?
30.
Some of them are, we have a copper issue that I've been working on for over a year trying to find the problem. I've been treating a polymer, trying to keep it out of the plant because we've got it coming in somewhere. We did samples at the plastics. I don't know what's the name of it. Yeah, no, the plastics out here by B Street. And they had a high amount of copper coming out of their building. So contacted ADM to find out what we needed to do for that. And they told us that we need to contact the owner and let them know that they have a problem. But they also advised us to continue doing some testing to make sure it wasn't just some random sample high, that it's going to be a consistency of samples coming in high. So we did that.
I got a question. Is this the plant for the old Russell Mill?
Yes, yes,
With all those plastic containers in the back
yes.
yard or back of that property?
They recycle plastic and they also recycle metals, but I went up there and talked to the two ladies in the office and neither one of them was aware of any kind of cleaning solutions or any kind of equipment cleaning that they did that would cause copper to go into our system, but we don't know. So they may have to get an SID permit from ADM if it continues to be a problem coming into our system. Because in our permit, we have no industries that are supposed to discharge on us. It's in our permit that they're not supposed to, and if they do, they're supposed to contact us. So that's the issue that we've been working on for over a year now, and doing extra testing, trying to get, down to the problem of the source of where the copper's coming from. And it could be another area. So I'm also testing different lift stations to see if we can find out other areas of the town that it's coming from. So yes, we were in non-violation, but as of February, which Alan Tucker, our engineer, did a consent letter back to them stating this is the process we were taking to try to fix the problem. And by July, we would have the problem fixed, which we have. The problem, we have not been in non-compliance since February on the copper.
What was the beginning date of the evaluations?
The end of 16.
My next question is, probably to you, Mayor Wu. Why was an engineering firm hired without the consent of the council? Or at least let us know, notify us.
As a general rule, the mayor got the authority to hire a professional to assist in something like this.
I think it's a certain amount of money, it has to come before the council, isn't it?
I'm not aware of that.
I think so. I think there's a certain amount. Well, how much are we paying an hour for the engineer?
Give me an estimate.
So we just hire him?
Well, basically,
Paying him whatever he
basically
charges?
Harmon Engineering is the one that has always handled these kind of problems with A&M because they know
But we don't know
what
what
it's
he's
about.
charged?
No,
So your
no.
answer is we don't know what he's charged? Okay. What is the staffing at the wastewater plant treatment?
Myself and one full-time employee,
What's the hours?
6 to 2 for him, and mine varies depending on if I have to come in early or stay late, or,
What you call early?
well, if I have problems, I come in sometimes 5 o'clock in the morning, sometimes 6 o'clock in the morning, sometimes 7 o'clock, it just depends, normally it's 7 to 3,
So why do you have so much overtime? at the
because I'm
wastewater?
shorthanded right now.
What happened to your part-time here?
What you want me to say, Mayor?
The
I
truth.
mean-
Tell the truth.
Okay, I had one part-time employee that used to work here full-time, and they got shorthanded where this person was working, and that person was not able to work a lot of the hours that I needed them to work. So I didn't have any hours, then I had hired somebody else to come in and work part-time, and I told this person I didn't have any hours for them this month, but if anything changed, I would let them know. I'll just turn my keys into City Hall tomorrow. I said, it has nothing to do with you not being wanted, because that's what they mentioned. I said, it has nothing to do with you not being wanted, it has to do with the fact I have nowhere to put you. And then that person said, why can't you split it between all the overtime? So I made the decision as a department head, if I've got somebody willing to work whatever hours I ask them to, compared to having to work around somebody else's schedule, their full-time schedule, this person don't have another job that interferes, I made the decision to keep the person that doesn't have another job that interferes.
And they made you short? So
I'm
you
short
have-
because somebody else left after that.
Okay,
2 people actually left after that.
okay. So how many hours do you use to work a week?
I try not to work over 80 unless I absolutely have to. I'll take a day off. If I have to work on the weekends or any extra shifts, I try to take off a day during the week to make up for it.
Why try not to work over 80?
Because I mean,
You
I just don't want to build up a bunch of comp time that I don't get to take. So,
take a lot, you take a lot of comp time.
do I now?
You take a lot of comp time.
I mean, what I had built up before I even started, I mean, this process.
What happened to, ST? I know he left. It wasn't a pleasant leaving.
Okay, let's see, ST. Number
That's
one,
okay.
he was,
That's okay.
no, no
Don't-
ma'am, I'm
don't
gonna explain
Don't
it.
answer
ST,
it. Don't answer it. You don't have to answer it.
well then why ask me a question if you don't want me to answer it?
Because I got it right here in my phone while he left. I got the text that you sent me.
Okay, I got text too, and I showed every one of them to Lewis.
Okay. So, I'm just disappointed that the council wasn't aware of any of this. None of it.
So when I let somebody go, I'm supposed to
I'm
let the
still
council
talking.
know?
I know, I'm talking about the fine. I'm talking about the fine.
I did not know that I was supposed to let y'all know. I let the people know that I thought I was supposed to
The
let them.
mayor knew.
I understand that.
I'm talking to the mayor right now, I'm not talking to you. So I'm disappointed that we didn't know. We should be a transparent city, and we shouldn't have anything to hide. And it seems that, you know, like we got something to hide up here. We all are elected officials. We owe it to our constituents to be honest with them and tell them what we know. But we can't tell them something if we don't know it. And everybody, you, the mayor, Alan Tucker. I don't know if you see the attorney, but y'all knew. Y'all knew back in August when we got the fine. Nobody's brought it to this attention, to this council. And I'm disappointed, and I feel disrespected. I'm actually appalled because I feel like y'all trying to hide something of it.
Can I say something?
I don't know, no, not right now, but I think you can. I don't know what you're trying to hide, but I'm gonna be digging, trying to find it. And I'm gonna bring it to light every time I find it. I'm gonna tell it. Because why was it such a secret? Why?
Okay, can I talk?
I'm speaking to the mayor.
Well, I was gonna explain why it hadn't been brought up to the council.
Why? You said
Because we have not received any fines yet. It was a consent order, proposed consent order.
And you had
We
to
went to
vote.
ADF to try to talk them down out of some of the fines.
Right.
We had 2 weeks to get them some information back, which had to be turned in the morning.
I got all that right here.
Okay.
But I'm talking about when we got the official letter with the fine, we, 1, 2, 3, 4, was not notified about it.
Yeah, when was this
I'm
letter
the
from?
chairman of the utility committee. Michael Ellis is on the utility committee, and the mayor is sitting right here. And we've had 2 meetings, and it's not been brought up. And I don't appreciate it.
We were gonna bring it up when we know exactly what the fines are gonna be, what exactly the,
That's not acceptable to me. When you find out something that's going on in our city, and you are a supervisor, I want to know for myself. I don't know about, I can't speak for the council members,
I wanna know.
but I wanna know. I don't wanna find out something third hand.
Ms. Williams,
Yes.
just for the record, superintendents are not required to report.
They're
to the
not.
council.
The mayor is, the
That's-
mayor's required, he's required to report to the city council. So I'm asking, why we were left out, Mayor?
The clerk and I and Katie went down there, that was my understanding,
And, okay,
excuse me, I think was being referenced to another one of the former employees earlier, that's the reason I mentioned that name. The consent order had different timetables for them to make corrections. And my advice was to Kate, to Ann, to go back. Some of it was going to have to be traced back to Katie's time, Jeff's time, and others, and then look as far as when she was on board, what was written up at that time. And then there were corrections that were to be made. My understanding that there have been corrections that have been being made continuously.
yes.
The final fine that would be made and would be proposed, did we go down there 2 weeks ago? I think it was a week before
Yes,
last.
we had, yes, tomorrow will be 2 weeks. Tomorrow will be 2 weeks.
After the last council meeting, we went down there that week. And at that point in time was the first time to meet with them, to have any knowledge of where we were, where we stood, because they said that everything that was correctable, that they would recognize anything that was correctable.
That's right.
And to give the current updates. The majority had been corrected. And then there was some additional information that they wanted. That was to go out this week.
so what you're saying is you was gonna tell us after everything was already done?
Once we got the final
Yeah.
bill, I guess,
Yeah.
fine.
Well, I think it's just
That's great.
disrespecting to this council. I think it's disrespecting to each and every one of us. I've been up here for 18 years, and this is just appalling and unacceptable to me. Maybe we should consider going to some private services. I don't know. I don't know. I just think this is disrespectful to each and every one of us. Anything that's happening in the city of LaFayette, it involves all of us.
Exactly.
not just certain people. We are all here for the betterment of the city of LaFayette, and we owe each and every person out there an explanation as to what's going on. And y'all wanna have these private meetings, I'm not really a part of it, but every time you have one, I find out about it, I'm gonna bring it before this citizen and let them know what you're doing. That's all I got.
I would like to say something, I mean, since we're all out in the open. I have an ex-employee that she is best friends with, and that ex-employee calls and tells her everything that goes on, and then she makes comments back to that person, which gets back to me, and I think that's disrespectful, that you as a council member still has dealings with somebody that used to be a superintendent here,
Let me tell you something.
that
I was a friend with Katie.
I understand.
Before I became a council member, and you don't tell me.
I'm not telling you not to be
So you
friends,
can kill it.
but if
You can kill it.
if it
You
comes
can
to
kill
the
it.
city of
You
LaFayette
can kill
business,
it. You don't tell me who to be
Well,
friends with.
I don't think
You don't
that
tell
should
me
be
who to be
discussing
friends
city of
with.
LaFayette
You don't
business,
tell
she
me what
don't
to
work
discuss.
here.
You don't know where I got my information from. I didn't get it from you. You should have been telling us.
I was
You
going
did.
to tell y'all when we
When it
knew
was
what was
over.
going on. We
When
don't
it was
even know
over.
if we're gonna get
Let it
fined
go
or
on.
what we're gonna
Go
get
on,
fined.
'cause I don't want to talk to you.
When did we get this letter?
In
From
August.
In
ADL?
August.
In August. You go on.
Nobody has ever told me that I have to come to each and every council member.
You did what you're supposed to do. You went to the mayor. He didn't tell us.
Thank you.
Do y'all have an understanding of why we didn't find out? I'm still trying to figure it out.
Me, I said, I'm Mayor Pro Tem, and I still don't half the time know what's going on. You know.
Next thing on the agenda is
Mayor,
the
let me ask one more question. I want to know how much you paying the engineer per hour. Yeah, please.
There was a restaurant liquor license application, Pizza D Action 3, Red Wagon Concession and Catering. It's my understanding, Chief, from our attorney, you'll need to do a background investigation, which is a normal procedure. For that, once you've done the background investigation, bring it back to our attorney and bring it back to us, then this would be eligible to be made into a form of a motion for or against. Municipal Housing Code Abatement Board appointments. Representatives from District A and District B. Ms. Charlene Hand is here tonight. She is in District B. This is, anyone who doesn't know her, Mike Hand's wife. She approached me this past week. She lives in District B. She would not like to be the chairperson, but would be willing to serve in that capacity for District B. That is up to the will of the council.
I nominate Robert Kennedy to serve as chairperson.
This is a request from her to step down as chair and serve as District B, just as District B is her request.
So don't you have to have a motion for it? Step down?
So that's what I'm asking for.
I just made one.
I thought you made one for the chairman.
I did. I make a motion for Ms. Hand to step down as
That's
chair.
what I'm saying, that's the first step right here.
Second.
I have a motion in the second that will allow her to step down from chairman to be District B. All in favor, say aye. Thank you.
Now I make a motion for Robert Kennedy to be the chairman.
Second.
I have a motion and a second, that Robert Kennedy be chairman of the abatement. All in favor, say like to put that in form
I
of
put
a motion?
motion, yeah,
Huh?
yeah. Yeah. I put motion that 12 will be, District 8.
Have a motion and a second for 12 Whitlow to be, on the board from District A. All in favor, say aye. All opposed? That will take care of District A and District B.
Got a question. The abatement board, they're the one that we should be taking over dilapidated properties and all that stuff too, let them,
Trying to get a full board together.
yes.
You want it?
Mayor, I'll clarify something. We actually have for the municipal house abatement board is 6 members. So there's 5 from each district and the mayor actually appoints a chairperson. So with the mayor and council agreeing to make Robert Finley the chairperson, now that actually leaves your district that's not having a representative.
I'll come back to my next council.
And then that would fulfill the 6 places. Okay. The November 12th council meeting will be observed as Veterans Day. Looking out on the calendar, we need to take a look at changing that date. Let's see, 12.
Monday.
What are the options?
Well, I guess one option would be the next day on the Tuesday. That would be, that's just one option.
So we'll do it Thursday?
15th?
Is that Thursday? Is that Thursday?
Yes. November 15th.
Do one of y'all have any?
October 15.
Make a motion that we move that council meeting to Thursday, November 15th.
Have a motion and a second to move the November 12th council meeting to November 15th. All in favor, say aye. All opposed? Meeting will be on November 15th. We'll post that and publish it. Does any one of the other council members have any question or concern?
Yes, I do.
Go ahead.
Actually, our first home, East Alabama Youth Football League game will be held this Saturday at 9 o'clock over at the football field. This is our first home game, so we appreciate everybody coming out supporting our young youth. Thus far, we have had a very successful season. We played the Lakers last Saturday, and we won. We're very proud of the young men, and so you guys just come on out and support us on Saturday, again at 9 o'clock. Super to the green, I still need to get with you on the stores building sometime next week. That's all I have, man.
Okay.
I would like for all department heads to submit a letter on, in reference to surplus property. We got a lot of old stuff that needs to be declared surplus and taken off of our roll. So I make a motion that next council meeting, that he put it form of a motion. I make a motion that all department heads submit a list of surplus property to the city clerk, that we can vote on it at the next council meeting.
Motion and a second for all department heads to list surplus property. At the next meeting, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
That's all I have.
That will be done. Anything else?
Right, Mayor, I got a question. Are you gonna come back to the next council meeting to give us some information on this water, wastewater?
Mr. Clerk, could you tell us how much our bills are for?
Mr. Mayor, we have claims in the amount of $450,990.19.
Make a motion to pay our bills.
Have a motion and a second to pay our bills, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? We had at the beginning of the night,
Mayor, just really quick before we dive into the resolutions, Chief Rankin would like to make an announcement regarding, I just went blank, Chief, I'm sorry. Neighborhood watch, I'm sorry.
Go ahead, I'm sorry.
We'd like to say good evening to Mr. Mayor and Council and all the citizens of LaFayette, everyone that's here. We're coming for you tonight because we're trying to implement within the city of LaFayette, we want to start a neighborhood watch program. And we've already gotten information out in the newspapers as far as one that's scheduled a meeting that we'll have. So we're going to, Sergeant White, he will be the one that would actually oversee this. And we will have a meeting coming up this Thursday, September 13th at
6:30 p.m.
6:30 p.m. at the
First Baptist Lafayette.
Okay, and I'm just gonna let him speak a little bit on it, and we wanna let the citizens of Lafayette know as well. We've advertised in the Lafayette Sun for the last 2 weeks. So we wanna let you all know that you all come so we can give you information and we can start this joint effort to be able to work together as the police department and the citizens of Lafayette.
Thank you, Chief. I won't keep y'all too long. It's just, I have a real passion for them. As y'all know from last week, I got promoted to investigations. It's my third time in an investigator slot, and I've worked these programs everywhere I've been. I found them very productive. It really gives us a good outlet to talk to our community, and our community, more importantly, an outlet to come and interact with us, where they're not getting stopped for speeding, where they're not having some tragedy in their life, when they can just ask simple questions they may not want to call chief and bother him with. And we hope everybody will show up. We hope all y'all will, and of course all of y'all, because it is your town. I don't live here. This is y'all's town, and we're doing our best to help y'all improve it and keep it as safe and good as we can make it. But like I said, it'll be September 13th at 6:30 p.m. at the First Baptist Church right up here across from the fire department. And tell all your friends, encourage all them to come too. We'll just give a little talk there about the department, what we do, about what we want from a neighborhood watch, and how we'd like to organize it. And then we'll open it up to just a question and answer form and start from there.
Is that in the fellowship hall of the church? Back
Yes,
in the
ma'am.
back?
Yes, ma'am.
Fellowship hall.
Yes,
So
ma'am.
everybody knows the sanctuary.
Who can we contact if you're getting, these scammer calls? Who do we need to contact in the police department?
Well, you can call the police department, speak to any officer about it. I know that the sheriff department has already been getting a lot of complaints.
Right.
We have received complaints as far as the IRS and other scammers that are calling. So anything that you have like that, you can just call the police department, speak with an officer, and he'll direct you in the way you should go as far as handling those situations.
Okay.
And that'll be one of the things we'll talk about Thursday night. We'll make sure we put that on the agenda to talk about Thursday night.
Thank you. Good program. Back to the resolutions. Mr. Attorney, it looks like we probably need to do these
Running them one at a time.
one by one. I'm gonna call out the name, and the first one that we discussed was David and Elaine Boyd.
Yeah, the picture of that one, it was still in bad shape. Yeah, they had not done anything on it.
There was no change reported by Sergeant Lockhart. So, what is the will of the council?
We need a motion to adopt resolution 2018-09-10-01.
This time, there's no motion to take any action.
All right, we'll move on to the
Wait a
next.
minute, on this claim,
So I'm asking, there was
David.
there was no change in the property reported on the first one discussed, which was David and Elaine Boyd.
I'll make a motion that we declare that property a nuisance.
I second the motion.
That was-
That resolution number 2018-09-10-01.
We do have a motion and a second to declare that as a nuisance. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Second one was resolution 2018-09-10-02, was a Bobby King. That was the old Avondale Mill property, where it was reported that some trees and some cleanup had taken place. There were still bricks and mortar and other things like that from concrete nature on the property.
I think there was also a letter that was published to the council, that Mr. King wrote, basically saying whatever plan it was he had to clean the property. As well as representation to Mr. Green that they were going to continue to work on the property. I think the spirit of that ordinance is if someone's making an effort, I don't know that we're going to pay the city employees to go out there and do something, especially after 4 or 5 years like this particular property has been growing up. I think it would be wise to pass this one to the next council meeting, make sure they keep that word.
I say we give them a time, put a limit, give them a certain amount of time to do something with that property, clean it up. If we're giving them years to do something, we send a letter out, now they want to do something to it, but just to pacify us, it's time to clean it up. It ain't fair to everybody else, we ask them to clean their properties up.
What did he ask for in the letter? Did he put a time in there?
He said he planned to accomplish as much work as possible in 2 days.
Maybe if we pass it to not this council meeting, to the next one, and if he hasn't made substantial progress, to declare.
Can we?
That's just.
Can we amend the motion, can I make a motion that we give him 60 days to clean that property up? I think that's being fair. Yes, I make a motion.
Well,
Give it.
let's motion to give him 6 days, let's table this actual resolution for 60 days and reconsider it then, I think is what is the form of the motion.
I say we give him 60 days to clean it up.
Oh, you're saying go ahead and declare it a nuisance. for
Yes,
60 days?
declare it a nuisance and we give him 60 days to clean it up.
I don't know if we can do that under the ordinance. I have to review the ordinance. I think the ordinance says, once the order goes out, that's pretty much it.
I think the resolution is approved and then we have to post it for a specified amount.
What about table this motion, this resolution, and we give him 60 days?
You have to revisit the resolution.
60 days.
60 days, maybe.
Yeah. That way we don't have to send him another letter, that's what I'm talking about.
Is everybody clear? We're going to table it 60 days and then come back and see where we are.
And we'll ask the clerk or somebody to contact him and let him know that he does have 60 days. We'll revisit it again in 60 days.
Okay, Councilmember Ellis made the motion. Do we have?
I said.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye. All opposed? Third property, I believe, that we were looking at was Eric McCants. It was reported that there was no change in the property. Is what? Is that what? There's one had, this from my notes. That was number 5 right up there at the top. He said that there was,
17 still, the resolution number, I don't know if it's agenda.
this is 2018-09-10-03 as far as the resolution.
I make a motion that we declare 21-18-01-03.
09-10-03.
As a nuisance.
Have a motion to declare 2018-09-10-03 as a nuisance. Is there a second?
Second.
There's a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? The next one is resolution 2018-09-10-04. It was an Annie Pearl Parkman. It was noted that this property had received the postage sign on it.
Yeah. As far as the statute, Sergeant Lockhart testified to the necessary notice requirements being given, so it can, the resolution, if the council wishes, it can be adopted. and that's resolution 2018-09-10-04.
Do you have any type of motion concerning this property?
I make a motion to adopt the resolution.
Second.
Motion to adopt, resolution 2018-09-10-04. All in favor say aye. All opposed? And resolution 2018-09-10-05. That would be the Matthew A. Pike, where it was reported no change.
I make a motion that we adopt resolution 2018-09-10-05 as a nuisance. Second.
Did you get that? We have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye. All opposed? That completes the resolutions that were brought at the beginning of the meeting at the public hearing. All of those being adopted except the old Avondale Mill property in which that's tabled for 60 days. Now, we're at a point where we have a motion to adjourn.
So.
A motion and a second to adjourn. All in favor say aye. Meeting stands adjourned. Thank you for coming.